Seeing pictures of my dad on the wall and in this Houston Rockets jersey, watching old tapes, old DVD tapes.
We talk about the games, and, he just tells me, like, if he sees anything, what I need to do, what I can do better.
We've both been through the ups and downs of the sport, so, they really don't have to leave the house to hear the things they need to hear.
Mitchell Lee Wiggins was born September 28, 1959, and first played in the NBA in the 83-84 season. If you don't remember him, you might be familiar with his son Andrew Wiggins, that was the #1 player in high school, one-and-done player in college, first overall pick in the NBA draft in 2014. Compared to LeBron James and Tracy McGrady, averages almost 20 points a game for his career, and actually became an All-Star in 2022, scoring his lowest points per game since his rookie season in his 9-year career. He was also a champion in 2022, praised in the finals for his defense, and also had some chatter about him winning the finals MVP over Steph Curry. Andrew was made to play professional sports. He has 2 older brothers that both turned out to be good college players and professionals. His mom was a track and field star that competed in the '84 Olympics, winning 2 silver medals, and has a park and street named after her in Canada. And you've already been introduced to his father Mitchell, who was a high-flying athlete in college, defensive stopper as a 6'4" shooting guard, who averaged as high as 24 points a game at Florida State and a first-round pick. There was lots of expectations for the eldest Wiggins coming into the NBA, and when he did play, for the most part, he wasn't a complete disappointment. He didn't miss a single game in his first 2 seasons, went to the NBA Finals in 85-86, and played an intricate role on the 89-90 Houston Rockets, averaging 15.5 points a game. But in the midst of living out his lifelong dream, he encountered a few bumps in the road that changed his career forever. Most notable was him missing 2.5 years for cocaine use. In 1986, the Houston Rockets challenged the almighty 67-win Boston Celtics, who were on the brink of winning their 3rd NBA title in 5 years. Houston were no slouch themselves, winning 51 games and had one of their best teams in years. They lost to the Celtics 4-2, and later that year, Wiggins and his teammate Lewis Lloyd, whom he challenged for playing time regularly, tested positive for substance use in early 1987 and were banned from the league for life, but reinstated before the 89-90 season. Other than that upcoming year, Wiggins completely fell off his NBA journey and was out the league by 91-92 at 32 years old, only playing 6 of the 9 seasons he was technically still in the league. His story usually goes untold, but turns out to be one of the better teachable ones of how he stuck around the game and, despite his troubles, raised 6 children who became successful in their own right. What happened to Mitchell Wiggins? Let's talk about it. It's your boy JC, Stunted Growth. Let's get it, man. Take a minute to like, subscribe, and comment on who I should do next. Mitchell Wiggins was a 6'4" shooting guard from Kinston, North Carolina that starred for Lenoir High School but couldn't reach the grades to receive a Division I scholarship, so settled for junior college and eventually enrolling at Clemson. He then transferred to Florida State in the best basketball decision of his life because he instantly became one of college basketball's standout players, averaging 24 points and almost 10 rebounds a game. His senior year wasn't much different, as he was once again an All-American and one of the leading steal men in the NCAA. That all led to him being taken 23rd overall in the NBA draft by the Indiana Pacers, traded to the Chicago Bulls on draft night, and averaging 12 points a game, 4 rebounds, and 1.3 steals as a rookie part-time starter. Promising start before the world around him in the 80s, that was so infamous an entire alternative hip-hop group would be named after them more than 20 years later, got the best of him. Stunt number 1, a hell of a drug.
Cocaine is a hell of a drug.
There's a reason Rick James famously described the drug cocaine as a hell of a drug, because that's exactly what it is. It illusions you into thinking you're free and able to do anything while high on it, but coming down, it leaves you in constant search of that high and ecstasy, but ultimately creates an addict of you and causes you to lose track of valuable time that can last decades or even forever. More times than not, you never recover from using such a drug, and for the lucky ones that do, realize that they've traded their entire life for a fleeting feeling. In no era was cocaine use more prevalent than the 1980s, especially within the Black American communities. In sports, specifically the NBA, no era has had more players banned from the league than the cocaine 80s, which even spilled over into the early 90s. That powder, as they called it, was said to perform miracles and make athletes feel like superheroes. At least that's what it was advertised as. 6 players throughout the 80s were suspended or banned for life due to cocaine use, more than any other era. In comparison, it was beginning to be as normal as smoking weed became in the 2010s and early 20s. Mitchell Wiggins was just another name caught up in the wave, and it set his career on an inconsistent path. When he first signed with Houston in 1984, he and Lewis Lloyd, who he played backup to, became best of friends. They competed hard against each other in practice and partied even harder together off the floor. Both were swept up in the cocaine wave, and it wouldn't be far off to speculate that both even were usually high during NBA games. Wiggins began to slip on the court as soon as he got to Houston, while Lewis was one of the team's leading scorers. By 86-87, Wiggins was having his best year as a Rocket after going to the 86 finals. Then, in January 1987, the league received evidence of drug use on both Lloyd and Wiggins and issued a search warrant, to which they found enough to ban both for life immediately. Wiggins was reinstated July 1989 after missing 2.5 seasons of his prime. Stunt number 2, another failure. Like mentioned earlier, coke is a hell of a drug addiction to shake, especially how popular it was on the streets at the time. Mitchell, unlike most, was given an early chance to return to playing basketball. 10 months after being banned, he appealed his exiling, promising he was clean. And then he failed another drug test and wouldn't have another chance at it for almost 2 more years. Still, he returned on a third chance for the Rockets for the 89-90 season and was having the best season he would have in the NBA. Career highs in points per game, rebounds, free throw percentage, and most efficient from the field. He even started 52 of the 66 games he played in. But with newly traded for Vernon Maxwell now on the team and expected to take over the shooting guard role, along with coach Don Chaney not being happy with Wiggins' defense, the Rockets chose not to re-sign him after the 89-90 season, and no team showed interest except the Philadelphia 76ers, much due to his baggage. Stunt number 3, couldn't get right. Inching closer to his last shot in the NBA, Philadelphia intended to sign Wiggins as a free agent, but he refused to take a full physical, which would mean having to submit to a full drug test as well. Thinking there was no way the player wouldn't be clean in a situation after he's already been caught twice and wouldn't risk his basketball future again, the Sixers were shocked when Wiggins decided not to go through with the physical. That decision spoke much louder than any word he could speak in his defense, because the feeling he was still using spread throughout the entire league, and Mitchell was not picked up by any team for the 90-91 season. The following year, guessing he cleaned up his act, Philly gave him another shot, but by that time, now 32 years old, he was nowhere close to being the player he was just 2 seasons earlier. He played 11 minutes per game and averaged 4 points in 49 games. The Sixers missed the playoffs, winning just 35 games, and thereafter, Mitchell Wiggins' chances were, no pun intended, used up. He bounced around overseas and in minor leagues for the next 10 years, when that time could have been used as a second half to a solid NBA career, but he just couldn't get right. All in all, I understand you can't judge a person too harshly later on for the environments they lived in then that taught them certain things were acceptable, and for the most part, I have to salute him for not bailing on his family like a lot of fathers hooked on drugs did, especially in his era. He was a successful father, still with his longtime wife, and his kids speak highly of him despite his stumbles. I want young hoopers to think about the times you're in now and the popular drugs that seem acceptable. Who knows what those effects will have on society and your game later. So use a story like this to help you steer clear of them all and prosper in search of your full potential. Salute to Mitchell Wiggins, but for these reasons, his growth was stunted. It's your boy JC Stunted Growth, and I'm out.